Welcome to the Draw Zone. This is where we dive deep into the sources, pull out the key info, and get you fully up to speed fast. Today, we've got a hefty pile of material on the 2025 F1 U.S. Grand Prix in Austin. Our mission, go beyond just the results. We're synthesizing the championship stories, tackling the, honestly, pretty wild logistics of the global schedule, making sure you know exactly what's on the line for this American tour.
So yeah, F1 is heading stateside, race 19 of the year, kicking off a really brutal stretch of long-haul races.
It really is. The beginning of the end, you could almost say after Austin, it's immediately Mexico, then Brazil, then Vegas, and that all leads into the final push in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. So when you look at the championship picture, this race at Codio, it's not just another weekend. It's a massive pivot point. The title fight could genuinely break wide open here, or maybe even collapse under, well, internal pressure. Okay, yeah, let's unpack that pressure, because all the focus really is on the championship battle. And kind of ironically, it's an internal battle. We're talking, of course, about that ferocious rivalry between the two McLaren drivers, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. They land in Austin separated by, what is it, just 22 points, super tight. That closeness, that's the core drama this season, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And the sources are quick to remind us, this isn't just numbers on a page. Remember Singapore? Oh, yeah. That touch right at the start. Another test from McLaren's own papaya rules. What are those rules actually trying to manage? That's where it gets really interesting. The papaya rules, I mean, at their core, they're management trying to set boundaries, right? Define how aggressive teammates can be when they're both fighting for the title. But that Singapore incident, that little touch, it just shows the rules are kind of being rewritten constantly, you know, in the heat of the moment. Piastri's leading now, sure, but you get this sense from the sources, a deep nervousness within the team.
And Coda, I mean, that track, that first sector is so volatile. The S's are incredibly fast. It demands absolute precision. If those two carry that Singapore tension into, like, turn one or through those S's, those internal rules, they're going to be tested like never before, maybe to destruction.
Wow, okay. That sounds like, yeah, potential disaster.
Yep.
What's also fascinating is the momentum shift you mentioned. Piastri's been losing points, hasn't he, for 3 races now?
Yeah.
Letting Norris close that gap right up.
Exactly. And that brings us to the sort of elephant in the garage, Max Verstappen.
Right.
He's 63 points behind Piastri. Now, that might sound comfortable for McLaren, but the sources use this perfect word. They say he's lurking.
Lurking. Okay, why does 63 points matter so much this late?
Because, well, think about the points available. Each race weekend, max points, 26 from the main race, plus whatever you get from the sprint. So if the two McLarens keep battling, maybe taking points off each other.
Benching P3 and P4, for example.
Exactly. While Verstappen just keeps winning, P1, that 63-point gap, it could disappear in just 2 or 3 races, seriously. He's just waiting for them to trip over each other, for that rivalry to hit a breaking point. If they have a collision,
boom,
title fight's instantly wide open again.
So, yeah, the drama is definitely thick at the very front, but F1 is never just about the top step, is it? We absolutely cannot overlook some really strong strategic drives happening further down.
Up and away in the
field.
Absolutely. If we step away from the title fight for a moment, yeah, the last race saw 2 real standouts who capitalized on other people's problems. Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin and Carlos Sainz driving for Williams, both scoring points.
Alonso, yeah, he got a lot of attention. Fans voted him pilot of the day, didn't they?
They did.
Finished P7, which the sources really highlighted as an incredible effort because he had that terrible pit stop, cost him a ton of track position.
And here's where looking at the incidents really matters. Alonso benefited massively from what happened with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton got that crucial 5-second penalty, remember, for cutting corners because of a brake problem.
Right.
That penalty basically gifted P7 to Alonso. And those points, you know, they don't just matter for the drivers, they're huge for the constructors' battle. That P7 helped Aston Martin keep their nose ahead in that super competitive midfield fight.
Okay, and then Sainz.
Yeah, Sainz. He brought the Williams home in the top 10, P10, and this is where you have to dig a bit deeper. The sources called his race a brilliant strategy. Why? Because he had to overcome being disqualified from classification earlier that weekend.
Okay, so that's a massive comeback.
It really is. It suggests the team probably had minimal practice data heading into Sunday, right? Because of the DQ. So to then pull off a strategy, maybe aggressive tire saving, maybe a perfectly timed overcut or undercut with limited data and still get points, that shows Williams took a big calculated risk and it paid off. They're executing really well right now.
And connecting that back to rivalries, Alonso and Sainz are now, 11th and 12th in the championship?
Yep.
separated by just 4 points. Tiny margin.
Yeah.
So we've got this Spanish dual form, like upper midfield bragging rights happening at the same time as the main title fight.
Exactly. It's fantastic racing all through the field. The grid is so tight this year. Every single point really counts.
Okay, so to catch all this action, we need to talk practicalities, logistics. The sprint race format is back for Austin, which, as you said, completely changes the weekend rhythm for viewers.
It really compresses everything, doesn't it? Friday isn't just practice anymore. So Friday, October 17th, you've got the first practice, FP1, and then bang, straight into the sprint classification. That session sets the grid for Saturday's sprint race. Crucial.
And for everyone listening globally, let's try and give you a clear picture of the timings. If you're in Spain, for example, those Friday sessions are 7:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Quite late. But for listeners in the local time zone, that's U.S. Central Time, same as Chile for this. It's 1:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. Much more sociable afternoon times.
Then we move to Saturday, October 18th. The intensity just ramps up again. First up is the sprint race itself, points on the line there, followed later by the main classification session. That's the big one that sets the grid for Sunday's main Grand Prix.
Okay, timings for Saturday. Spain, you're looking at 7:00 p.m. for the sprint race, and then 11:00 p.m. again for the main qualifying. Back in the Americas U.S. Shield time, that's 1:00 p.m. for the sprint and 5:00 p.m. for quali, still keeping it in the afternoon.
Right. And now, the main event, the reason everyone tunes in, Sunday, October 19th, the race. The official start time in Austin, Texas is 12:00 p.m. local time, noon, which is UTC -5. And this local start time, this is the absolute key detail for our global audience because the time zone shifts are just massive.
Yeah, this is where the logistical deep dive gets really interesting, maybe a bit mind-bending. That noon start in Austin creates such wildly different viewing experiences depending on where you are in the world and how dedicated you are, frankly.
Okay, let's look at the range. Okay, it takes Spain or Switzerland. They're 7 hours ahead. So that noon race, it translates to a pretty nice, maybe family-friendly 7:00 p.m. evening viewing slot for them.
Okay, pretty standard European race time. Then somewhere like Argentina.
Yeah.
They're only 2 hours ahead of Austin, so they'll be watching at 2:00 p.m. Easy afternoon viewing.
But the real dedication award, it has to go to viewers further east. Let's use the most extreme example from the sources. Japan. They are operating on a plus 14-hour difference from Austin. 14 hours. So a noon race start in Texas means they are tuning in at, wait for it, 2:00 a.m.
Wow.
on the following day, Monday morning, 2 a.m. That is just incredible commitment from F1 fans over there. Truly remarkable.
That contrast really tells the story of F1's global schedule challenge, doesn't it? And just to help you kind of lock this difference in your mind, think about this. An early Friday practice session, say 10:30 a.m. in Austin, that's a manageable 5:30 p.m. in Spain, evening viewing.
Right.
But in Japan, you're already watching at 12:30 a.m. Saturday morning. The shift is just immense. And speaking of commitment and watching, for all of you who appreciate us digging through all this complex stuff, synthesizing these details and insights so you don't have to sift through dozens of articles yourself, well, welcome to the Drake Zone. If you're watching this deep dive right now, you're already on the Drake Zone platform. So maybe take a quick moment, find that subscribe button, and give it a click. We do this all the time, synthesizing complex info just for you.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, okay, knowing when to tune in is one thing, but knowing where is the next vital piece of the puzzle. Let's quickly summarize the TV and streaming options across the main regions mentioned.
Okay, let's do it. Starting in Europe, if you're watching in Spain, your main platform is DAZN F1. Pretty straightforward there. Moving over to North America, viewers in the United States, you'll find the coverage on ESPN. In Mexico, it's FOX Sports Mexico.
Right. Then down to South America, Colombia and Peru, you've got options with Star Action and ESPN. Chile is similar, Star Action and FOX Sports Chile. And Argentina, interestingly, seems to have the most listed options. Star Action, ESPN, and FOX Argentina. 3 choices there.
Okay.
And we should definitely mention the kind of unified global online option, F1 TV Pro. That's the official F1 streaming service. It's available in pretty much all these countries we just listed. US, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina. It gives you live streaming, all the data feeds, except it's not available in Spain. As you said, in Spain, you're restricted to DAZN F1.
Good clarification. All right, let's wrap up this deep dive then. Key takeaways for this Austin Grand Prix weekend. We've established, I think, pretty clearly that the whole F1 world is watching that internal McLaren title fight. Just 22 points separating Piastri and Norris. And it's a fight that Max Verstappen's watching very, very closely, maybe waiting for one mistake that could swing the championship his way. We also highlighted those really strong, smart performances from Alonso and Sainz. They're locked in their own tight midfield battle.
Yeah, the Spanish duel.
Exactly. And finally, we broke down that global schedule, underlining the huge time difference watching at noon in Texas versus, say, 2:00 a.m. in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Quite the contrast.
So my final thought, maybe something provocative for you to think about heading into these last few races. If Verstappen does keep chipping away while the McLaren drivers are maybe too focused on each other, what's the tipping point? How many races are left before his, currently distant 63-point deficit actually becomes an insurmountable threat? You have to wonder, don't you, if McLaren management might eventually have to make a really tough call, prioritize one driver just to shut that door on Verstappen. That balance, fighting your teammate versus playing the long game against Verstappen, it's absolutely crucial right now.
Ooh, that's a fantastic strategic question to chew on this weekend. Great point. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive here on the Grid Zone. And one last reminder, please do make sure you follow and subscribe to the Grid Zone platform, wherever you're listening or watching, for much more synthesized analysis and insight just like this. We'll catch you on the next one.